Liquid soap's incredibly popular these days, probably taken over from bar soap, but it's also necessary if you want to make your own household cleaning products like dish soap or washing up liquid, like shampoo, like household cleaners. Today, we're going to make liquid soap. Hello, welcome to English Country Life. Welcome to the workshop on a windy, blustery day, and I'll apologise in advance for any creaks and groans of the old building in the wind. My name's Hugh, and today we're going to look at making liquid soap. Now, we've done a video in the past on making bar soap, and I'll put a link somewhere up here. And when we made bar soap, we used an alkali and a fat, we joined them together, chemical reaction occurred and created soap. And that's called the process of saponification. The alkali we used was sodium hydroxide, also known as caustic soda. We dissolved it in water, mixed it with some warm fats, stirred it till it started to thicken. And that process then is saponification, the process of, at a molecular level, making soap. Once it started to thicken, which is called achieving trace, we poured it into some moulds, and we then left it for 28 days for that process to complete. And that's called cold process soap making. Cold process because you don't heat the soap while the saponification's carrying on. Just leave it do its thing, and after 28 days, it's finished. To make liquid soap, we need to change that process a little bit. We need a different alkali, so we're going to use potassium hydroxide, also known as caustic potash. You can make that at home, and if you'd like to know how, leave me a comment down below, and I'll put together a video showing how to do it. So, we use a different alkali, still make a solution of it, still mix it with warmed fats and oils, but then we keep it warm while the saponification process completes itself at a low temperature, but keeping it hot, and that accelerates the saponification, the soap making process, and that's called hot process soap making. Now, you can do that with bar soap, has its own pluses and minuses. I prefer cold processing bar soap, but for liquid soap you've got to be able to hot process. So let's look at how that's done. First things first, whilst I'm dealing with any alkalis today, I am going to wear a face shield in case of splashes and rubber gloves. This isn't me being a wuss. This stuff can eat your flesh down to the bone. All right? I'm not going to overemphasize it because with sensible precautions, it's perfectly safe. But splashes on your skin are really dangerous, so don't let them happen. Long sleeve top, rubber gloves, somewhere protecting your eyes and face from any splashes. That's the only way to go. Yep. I look an idiot, but I'd rather look like an idiot than get chemical burns, and those are my choices. So a little bit of safety goes a long way. Right, what are we going to do today? Well, first things first, we're going to weigh out all our ingredients. We're going to weigh them out in grams because it's a more precise measurement. And in soap making, precision is everything to make it safe and make it work. So I've got a little set of scales. We're going to weigh everything in grams, even water. We've only got 4 ingredients today. We've got our caustic potash or potassium hydroxide. We've got water, and I'm using 2 different fats. I'm going to use coconut oil and I'm going to use olive oil. That's it, that's all I need. And the process is warm up your fats and oils. That's part 1, once you've measured them by weight. And I'm going to warm them up in a slow cooker. And the reason for that is later on in the process, we need to keep this thing warm for a number of hours. And the easiest way of doing that is in a slow cooker. You can do it on a hob, you can do it in an oven, but it's less precise, it's more cumbersome. And honestly, you can get a second-hand slow cooker in a charity shop, in a car boot sale, in a yard sale, for like 10 quid. You can buy them new for 20 quid. And it's the best way of making liquid soap. Trust me on this. So, weigh our fats and oils, get them heated up in the slow cooker. Then we weigh our water and potassium hydroxide. When our fats are up to temperature, we mix the potassium hydroxide with the water, dissolve it, mix that into the warmed fats and oils, and then we stir it, and it will start to create that saponification process, the chemical alteration into soap. And then we will keep it warm until that process has completed. And that's why having it in a slow cooker really, really helps. There's quite a lot of stirring, so we will use a stick blender to make that easier. But that's the process. That's what we're going through today. So let's get going. There's my scales. That is the liner of my slow cooker. If you're going to get a slow cooker to do this, get one with a removable liner. It makes weighing things out easier, and it also makes cleanup a heck of a lot easier. I want to put 600 grams of fat in there, 420 grams of olive oil, 180 grams of coconut oil. One thing I will say is don't keep your olive oil outdoors the night before you're planning to do this, because olive oil at cold temperatures will set quite hard, and mine was this morning, so I had to warm it up in the house before I could pour it. That's 180 grams of coconut oil in there, 420 of olive oil, 600 grams total. I'm going to put them into the slow cooker. I'm going to put it on a high heat just to get them all melted together and warmed up while we carry on measuring the rest of the ingredients. So I'm turning that all the way up to its hottest setting. There's something about this slow cooker that I really like. It has a glass lid. I find that really helpful while soap making because I can see what's going on inside it. And I don't want to keep taking the lid off because water can evaporate and that will change the consistency of the soap. So again, when you're looking, get one with variable temperature, removable liner, and if possible, a glass lid. I'm weighing out 393 grams of mineral water. I don't use tap water here because our water's ever so hard. It doesn't make great soap. Now I'm going to weigh out 131 grams of potassium hydroxide. My fats have all melted and mixed together. So the job now is to add carefully my potassium hydroxide to my water. I'm giving that a stir. I'm using a thermometer, it doesn't have to be, just because it happens to be a useful glass rod that's useful for stirring. And I'm going to leave my potassium hydroxide for about 5 minutes to dissolve fully. 5 minutes have gone by and the potassium hydroxide is fully dissolved and starting to go clear. So we know that that is a proper solution. If we look into our slow cooker, we can see there's no great lumps of coconut oil now. All the fats have melted together. So the job now is to very carefully pour our hydroxide solution into the hot oils and fats. I try and distribute it a bit around the pot, but it honestly doesn't matter. Now you can immediately see the oils start to change colour, and that's because saponification is already happening under this hot process. Now that we've mixed all our ingredients, we need to stir, and I find the best way of doing this is to use a stick blender. But again, you need gloves, you can't be splashing it onto your skin. And I want you to look, if you can, at what's happening to the oils. You can see them changing colour as we stir. And that's because the stirring is encouraging saponification. Now after 1 minute you can see I can draw patterns in the soap. That's the sort of trace we would go for with cold process soap. That we would aim for that level and then we'd pour into moulds. But we need to go a lot further with hot process soap to make a liquid soap. That's what I'm looking for. So thick it's almost solid. I'm going to scrape all of that off the blender and then we're going to cook that soap for about an hour. Our slow cooker has 3 settings, labelled 1, 2 and wiggly line. Wiggly line is a sort of keep warm, very low setting. 1 is medium, 2 is very hot. And what you want to leave your cooker on is the medium of its settings. And then let that soap just cook for an hour. Don't take the lid off, don't stir it, don't mess with it. Just let it cook for 1 hour from now. An hour's up and I want you to have a really good look. Can you see over here? The soap's gone really sort of translucent and sort of greeny in colour, but most importantly it's the translucence. But here in the middle, it's a lot more opaque. Now I want all that soap to go translucent before I'm happy that the reaction, the saponification, is complete. So what I need to do now is give that a stir, put the lid back on, leave it for another hour. It's taken 2.5 hours today, but it's done. I want you to see that bit where you can see the water that's dripped back in. It's clear. And all around that soap has got a sort of translucent quality. You can see light through it. And that means the soap is done. So what we've got here is a thick soap paste. But obviously that's not liquid soap. So the next job we've got to do is dilute it down with some hot water and make it the right consistency. There's one other way you can be absolutely certain your soap's done, but don't try this till you think it is. You get a little bit of soap on the end of your wooden spoon and you touch it to your tongue. If the curing process isn't fully complete, you'll get a zap, like a little electric shock, like a sting, which is the chemical still working in the soap. If it just tastes soapy, your soap's done. Ours just tastes soapy. So we're now going to dilute it down. In order to do that, what we want to do is add roughly 3/4 as much water in weight as there is soap. So the first thing to do is put a big stainless steel pot on the scale, zero the scales, and we'll weigh what soap we got. So here's my pot, and it's all zeroed. Here's my soap, and I'm gonna weigh my soap very carefully so that I know how much I've got. So I've got here then 988 grams of soap. Should have been a kilo batch this, but a little bit gets left stuck to the side of the pan. So 988 grams in the saucepan. I want to take 3/4 of that amount in weight of water and begin the process of dissolving the soap paste, and then gradually build up, adding more and more. And often I'll have to add considerably more than 3/4 of the weight of water, but I don't want to add too much too soon. So we will build it up gradually until the soap paste dissolves. So I'm going to weigh out 3/4 of that amount, and I'm going to still use mineral water because, as I say, hard water really isn't very good for making soap, be that liquid soap or hard soap bars. So we'll pour that into the pan on top of the soap, and we'll turn on a medium heat just to begin to warm that water up and help the soap to dissolve. I'll stir it a little bit as the water heats up. I'm not going to use a blender, it doesn't help. All I want to do is not let that soap paste stick to the bottom of the pan as I'm heating it up. And that's what it gets to. Once I've got it up to that nice bubbly layer, all I need to do, make sure that nothing's stuck to the sides of the bottom of the pan, then I'm going to pop a lid on and I'm going to leave it overnight. Welcome back. It's the following morning. I made a bit of a mistake last night. It got really cold out here and I left the soap mixture out in the workshop last night, and honestly, to dissolve well, soap needs warmth. That's why we heated up the water. So the soap won't have dissolved as well as it should have done. But that's not irreversible. We just heat it up again and carry on. Let's take a look. Well, here's where we are, and as you can see, we've got like almost like a bit of a soap crust, and there's some quite large amounts of soap left that haven't dissolved yet. So what I'm going to do is add 150 ml of extra water to it, and I'm going to bring it back to the boil and just keep it warm through the day, giving it an occasional stir, and we'll get that soap dissolved. So turn the heat off now, and I'm going to cover it up, but I will come back and re-warm it every hour or so just to keep the temperature up to allow the soap to dissolve. Well, we've got there. We've had to reheat the soap several times, and we've had to add quite a bit more water, but that's how this process works. You start with 3/4 of the weight of the soap in water, heat it up, leave it overnight, and then you can add a little more water in increments, reheat the soap, stir it, leave it to dissolve, and keep doing that till the last of the soap disappears. So there we have 500 ml of liquid soap. It's unscented, it's plain, but it's none the worse for that. But I do want to scent this batch. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to add 1% by volume of my favourite essential oils into the soap. So with 500 ml of soap, I need 5 ml of essential oils, which is conveniently 1 teaspoonful. And I'm going to use a mix of lemon and grapefruit to give a lovely citrusy, zingy, wakey up kind of feel to it. The process for doing it is to warm up the soap, not boil it, just bring it up to about 40 centigrade, 100 Fahrenheit, just to make it a bit runnier and easier to mix. Add in the essential oils, give it a good stir and let it cool down. There we go. Just pop it into a little pan. We'll get that warmed up to about 40 centigrade, 100 Fahrenheit. Really doesn't take very long at all to get this up to temperature, but it soon becomes considerably runnier. That's the grapefruit. That's the lemon.
Been a bit busy, got really mucky hands. That's working really nicely. Did a nice job.
That is how you make liquid soap, and here we have some. It isn't as simple as making cold process bar soap, and that's why we did the cold process bar soap first. It's kind of like a level 1 introduction. It's a really regimented recipe. If you follow the steps accurately, it will definitely work. With liquid soap making, I've never found reliable recipes that go, you know, cook it for this long, then add this amount of water. They're just not out there, you know. So you need to know instead how to know when things are done. And that's why I talk about looking for the translucence when you're cooking off the soap, doing the zap test on your tongue if you're brave enough, and gradually building up the amount of water that you dilute the soap with until all the soap dissolves. So there is a little bit of trial and error in there. If you want more recipes, this is the book that I use, although I use internet recipes as well. But this book is long on technique, and its recipes for producing soap bases are very good. So this book covers things like hot processing bar soap, it covers liquid soap, it covers other things like that. I don't really trust the way they talk about dilution in here. So in this book they say, oh, you should never dilute by more than 0.75 to 1. So in other words, 1,000 grams of water for 1,000 grams of soap base. Sometimes I need 2,000 grams of water or more, and I still end up with a really thick liquid soap. So my attitude is just keep adding water in small increments until all your soap dissolves. But that aside, this does give you illustrations on the basics, etc. I think if you're a beginner, get the Melinda Cross book. If you want to move on to more advanced techniques like hot processing and liquid soap, then that book is great. And I'll put a link down below. If you need a slow cooker, this Russell Hobbs one is fairly cheap and cheerful, has variable temperature control, has a glass lid, it has a removable liner. Those are the things to look for. If you can get one in a charity shop or a car boot sale, definitely do that and reserve it for use with your soap processing. But again, put a link down below to that. And the last thing that is tricky to come by is this caustic potash, the potassium hydroxide that we used as the alkali for making liquid soap. I don't think it has a lot of other uses, but the sodium hydroxide, the caustic soda that we use in making bar soap, is a drain cleaner, and so it kind of is around for a number of purposes. For this stuff, the only place I've found that are really good for it in the UK is a specialist soap making shop called the Soap Kitchen, and they supply it and it's reasonably priced and it's easy to come by. If you're not in the UK, I'm afraid you'll have to do some research on a specialist soap making shop, or ask me nicely in the comments and I'll tell you how to make it, although that is quite an involved process. But you can get this. I will put a link down. I'm not sponsored by the Soap Kitchen or anything else. I just think they're an excellent firm that really do supply great stuff for soap makers. So that's all of it. If you'd like to see where we go next with this, do please leave us a comment. So, you know, we could do dish soap, washing up liquid. We could do shampoo. We could do other liquid soap recipes. If it interests you, tell us and we'll make them for you. If you've enjoyed today's content, can you spare us 5 seconds? Give us a thumbs up down below. And if you'd like to see more videos on this type of subject and all the other self-sufficiency, small holding ideas that we cover, please hit that subscribe button, bang on the bell next to it, and you'll hear every time we upload new content. But whatever you do, come back and see us soon. Take care.